What is going on, guys? It's your boy, Sage the Mock, at its Real Wrestling Podcast, coming to you live from the mean streets of San Antonio. Well, I don't know if they mean, but uh, gonna give you guys a quick review over the Mae Young Classic. But before we get into that, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel here, and I should say not or, and be sure to go ahead and subscribe to the audio podcast. It's Real Wrestling Podcast, or just simply visit our website, IRWP.us. That way you have all the links to all of the audio RSS feeds. So whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, FM Player, wherever you get your podcast, please be sure to subscribe, share, and like to It's Real Wrestling Podcast. Today, WWE dropped the first four episodes of Classic, and I have got to say, I am so happy that this is going on right now. For those who don't know, the Mae Young Classic is basically a tournament that the WWE has put together from talent across the globe, from different promotions, different countries coming together. It's very similar and reminiscent of the Cruiserweight Classic that happened last week. We don't know exactly what's going to culminate from the winner. Um, we'll probably find that out late September when they have the finals. But it's definitely an exciting time to be a wrestling fan. It's even more of an exciting time to be a women's wrestling fan. Um, they finally have a platform that they can use, and hopefully they can really generate a lot of buzz from this. So from the reviews that I've seen from other places, it's been generally positive, which is definitely a great sign to see. One of the things that I did notice that was kind of different from the Cruiserweight Classic on this was that um, the audience setup was a little bit different. The crowd actually looks a bit bigger than the CWC was, just from the way that it looked initially. I do like you still have the handshakes at the beginning of the matches, but I noticed that they fade to black the audience, so everything is centered and focused on the in-ring action. So from like a viewer standpoint, I think that that's a pretty great aesthetic. Um, and the crowd has been very, very respectful as well, which is usually something that you kind of worry about in this type of environment. But this kind of goes to show you that, you know, certain types of wrestling, like these types of wrestling events like the cruiserweights. I know that a lot of people have said like the cruiserweights would thrive more if they were in a smaller type of venues, sort of like how NXT is. And you kind of get that feel here with the women's tournament going on, the Mae Young Classic. So just wanted to kind of bring that to light. So from this first episode, we got to showcase four different matches. We had the Kaylee Ray versus Princess Suhed. We had Vanessa Bourne versus Serena Deeb. Shayna Baszler versus Zeta, and Abby Lath, also known as Kimberly, versus Jazzy Gabbert, the German athletic one that you've seen in many of the previews. I enjoyed all of these matches immensely. And before we go into a deeper dive, I just want to congratulate all the ladies who participated in this first episode. I thought they did very well in terms of all the storytelling and the engagement that was in the ring. Um, Very, very good, and there was a couple of surprises as well, which, you thought it was gonna go one way, but then ended up going another way, so I definitely liked that aspect of it as well. So, the first match was Katie Lee Ray from Scotland versus, Mexico sensation Princesa Sugahead, and, this one started off a little slow at first, a lot of chain race wrestling going on at the very beginning, each of them um ch- showcasing different types of submissions that they are most comfortable with, and I like that a lot. Kaylee Ray was more of the aggressor the majority of the matches, where Suget was more of the she was more doing the counters into the submissions and things of that nature, kind of showing up Kaylee Ray. So they meshed very very well together, and I absolutely love that. I have to say, coming into this, I really thought that Kaylee Ray was going to be the one who was going to ink out the win on this one. So was kind of surprised that Princess Suhet ended up inking out the win on this one. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this one was done by submission. For the win, but don't quote me on that. I got to go back and double check that. But that was a really really good match, very very competitive match. Um, at the end, both competitors shook hands, and so that was a good thing. Um, the second match of the night was Vanessa Bourne versus Serena Deeb, and I don't know why I said of the night because this is probably shot during the daytime, but um, between this match and another match that went on later in the tournament, I got to say that it was probably the best match, if not the second best match of this particular episode. Um, just to give you a little bit of background, Serena Deeb, she actually used to be a superstar with the WWE back when CM Punk had his Straight Edge Society gimmick going on. Her reign in the WWE was kind of cut short because of some alcoholism issues that that she's very open and candid about on there. So it was really good to see. It was amazing to see that her hair grew back. I know it's been like 5 years, 5 or 6 years, but it was good to see that her hair completely grew back after she shaved it for being part of that stable. But um, then you had Vanessa Bourne, and I believe she's a Polynesian descent, Samoan. Um, but she y- before getting into wrestling, she was a cheerleader for one of the sports teams and Phoenix Suns dancer as well. So it was pretty interesting to see how that translated in the ring. And I have to say, she was actually a pretty good wrestler. Wasn't too much of a fan of the attire that she came into the ring with. I thought it kind of distracted a little bit versus the overall wrestling itself. But that's just I know it's kind of petty, but that was just kind of my take on that. But um, very great, tit for tat wrestling. Vanessa Bourne was definitely healing it up in this particular match, showcasing her abilities. A lot of her holds were very very tight, very very crisp. Um, a lot of back and forth on this one here. I really thought that Vanessa Bourne was actually going to ink out the win on this one, but it was like I said, it was damn near great storytelling between these two women, and ultimately Serena Deeb did ink out the victory on this one. I've got to say, and I said this as soon as I saw this match. You've got to sign both of these ladies to a long term contract. I think that both of them would do very very well on the main roster, or if they do decide to do, women's only program, much like they have the CWC, I would definitely like to see both of these women on there. I think that they can tell great stories with other competitors that are in the matches as well. Um, Very, very great job, ladies. Very, very great job. So definitely, if not the best match, the second best match of this particular episode itself. So after this, we got treated to Shayna Baszler, former UFC fighter, Shayna Baszler versus Japan Zeta, and this one was a really, really interesting match. It didn't go very, very long. I think it was like less than 5 or 6 minutes. Um, Shayna was definitely healing it up on this one here. She was acting more towards as a bully. It's always interesting to see someone coming in from a different profession, such as like wrestler, you know, uh, NFL or football, whether collegiate or professional, or from, UFC, in this case, UFC, into into wrestling, just to see how they can transition it. This match, Shayna definitely started out the match stronger on the MMA side of the house. You know, c- Not selling, which she didn't in this. She didn't necessarily need to sell the moves that Zeta was putting together, but she was, doing a no selling, which looked great. Zeta would hit her with a couple of strikes, and Shayna would just kind of like, what's this? What's kind of this? And the holds and the reversals were amazing, from both of them. At the very end, Shayna inked out the victory, but her finisher was amazing. She basically put her up in a vertical suplex, and then when she brought her down, she inverted her and put her in a clutch or a sleeper chicken wing kind of hold at the end. And I thought that that was very, very innovative, very, very amazing. Um, Definitely was an awesome match there. Curious to see how far Shayna Baszler goes, and see how her style transitions to others, other typical, you know, not typical, but other styles of wrestling. So it's going to be interesting to see her, transition. One of the four horsewomen. I heard, before the Mae Young Classic came through, that there was a spot that she had where the four horsewomen of UFC or mixed martial arts versus had a stint with the three of the horsewomen that were actually there as well. But they didn't actually showcase that in this episode here. So I don't know if it was this episode, a clip from this episode, or if it was one from maybe one of the later rounds, maybe the second round or so. But it's definitely interesting to see if that ever culminates into something. So, and then the last match of the night, like I said, this is probably either this one or the Vanessa Bourne versus Serena D was probably like the match of the night for episode one in particular. Jazzy Gabbert, the big bulky German lady, versus Abby Lath, or um, better known as Kimber Lee in the independent circuit. This is actually the first time I've actually seen a legit Kimberly match. So I didn't know really what to expect. Every time that I've seen Kimberly in the news, it's always because she's been in like a mixed tag match where she's like the brunt of some type of vicious power bomb. One time I saw that she took a power bomb and kind of knocked her out completely out cold. I almost thought she died from that, but this was actually I would say thoroughly impressed. Out of all the four matches that were in this particular episode, this one by far had the best storytelling in the ring. Gabber just came through with her power. She was power wrestling through most of the match. Um, were just vicious, throwing Lathe around like she was just a rag doll. The crowd just was very in tune to this, as well as I. Really in tune to this match. Really, really, these ladies gave everything that they had. I really thought Gabber was going to win this one here, and uh, the Lathe hit her with or hit her with the roll up for the 1, 2, 3. But I would say, and if there's any match that you would see from this first episode, it would definitely have to be that Abby Lathe versus that Jazzy Gabber. I, these two women just absolutely need to be signed to the roster. They can do so much. Um, the experience is there, and I'm surprised I've never heard of these women. Well, I haven't seen them make this much of a splash until the cruise, or until the which, in the end, that's what this is all about. So um, definitely excited to see what the rest of the rounds are. I'll be reviewing episode number 2 tomorrow, and I'll definitely have that uploaded here. But again, guys, the Mae Young Classic is shaping up to be something very, very great. I'm glad that Triple H went from 16 to 32. I think 16 was originally was planned for the tournament, and they upped it to 32. So kudos there. So many talented women out there that don't get half the respect that they deserve, and it's good to have this particular platform for it. So. With that being said, guys, that is my review for episode one of the Mae Young Classic. Thank you guys for continuing to be subscribed to It's Real Wrestling Podcast. Please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, share this review out. Definitely going to be popping out more episode reviews in the next couple of days. Um, IRWP.us. We'll have all of our social media contacts there, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon. Please go ahead and support us on Patreon. We're there on Patreon as well with some exclusive content as well as some rewards for our jobbers. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Mae Young Classic Review episode one, and y'all keep it real.